Welcome to King for the Day, your racing's dictator.
We have to make it so bad that nobody would ever contemplate doing it again.
But is it right that the jockey who rides the horse gets less than the stable staff?
The integrity of racing in Britain remains the envy of the world.
The least prize in 1991 was £2,178 to the winner.
We've seen over the years that once they get into a position with the BHA, many of them appear to leave their commercial sense behind them.
What changes and reforms would you introduce?
Some of the Mickey Mouse races run for £2,500 where the winner gets £1,600. That is disgusting.
Jack Berry, MBE, rode 49 winners in 14 years, suffering 46 fractures, trained 1,657 winners over 30 years, retiring in 2000. One of the founders of the Injured Jockeys Fund, he has tirelessly raised millions of pounds for racing and other charities and is the driving force behind Jack Berry House in Malton, the northern equivalent to Lambourne's Oaksey House, a residential and rehabilitation centre for current and retired jockeys. Jack, welcome to King for a Day, your racing's dictator. What changes and reforms would you introduce?
Well, thank you very much for the introduction. That was very good. What I would change is one thing for a start. I mean the jockeys, the top 20 jockeys. I mean they've got a really, really good living, and the next 20 would have an average sort of a living. But you take the 20 below that, I mean they've got a moderate sort of living, and the ones below that even, and there are quite a few, they struggle. Regarding the Oaksey House, or the equivalent that we're building at Malton in Yorkshire, well, that's because, I mean, when the jockeys do get injured, they've got the northern jockeys from Scotland right down to the Midlands. They all have to travel down to Oaksey House to get rehabilitation or the whatever needs to take them to get them back to work. And we feel certain that we need the equivalent at least, you know, in the north, and we've chosen Malton. And I was hoping to raise £3.5 million. That's the cost of the project to start with. So we started with the books for a start, better late than never, and that very got kindly sponsored, and by three lovely people, and the fund's something like 68,000, which is marvellous. And then we hit on the idea if we got bricks engraved with the names of past and present, or horses' names, the equine bricks would go on the floor leading to the dwellings, and the human bricks names would go on the walls to help build the project. And at this stage now, it's going to start the building of it any time now. This is January, and hopefully in 11 months' time it'll be up and running. So
Jack Berry House, the house that Jack built, could be, as you say, at the end of 2014, beginning of 2015.
It will be, yes, yes. I mean, it's awful weather at the minute. It's been awfully windy and wet and whatnot. And I think they're just waiting now. The next few days, hopefully, they'll start putting the footings in. But we've had some atrocious weather recently, you know, and I think that's held them up somewhat. But this, you can safely say by November next year, we'll have people in there.
Now, you're talking about insurance for jockeys, being looked after by the Injured Jockeys Fund, who do a tremendous job. You're vice president of the Injured Jockeys Fund, apart from being one of its founders. People would say, well, why can't jockeys insure themselves? Well,
when I was riding, we used to pay £66 a year. That was to insure ourselves. And we got £10, 1.8 per week when we got injured. But we never got any money for the first 3 weeks. So you could break a collarbone or break a rib, and you were back riding before you even got any money. We're a lot better off nowadays. But I mean, for all that, jockeys got to insure themselves, and they were middle of the road type of jockeys. You know, the insurance is a heck of a lot now more than it used to be, and they can ill afford it. But I honestly do believe that racecourses themselves should insure jockeys.
As a dictator, you are going to say to all of Britain's 58 racecourses, it's your job to ensure whatever happens on your patch, on your racecourse, jockeys are insured by the racecourses.
Well, if you had, as a trainer, if you had a lad that broke a leg riding out there, a horse kicked him and something, you'd have to look after him and insure for him. So I mean, I can't see any difference when a jockey gets injured on a racecourse. Just with normal breaks, if he's off, break a leg and he's off for 9 months, they should have the insurance to cover that.
So you would insist racecourses to get a licence to race under your regime would have to have all jockeys insured for up to a certain sum that could be defined in negotiation.
Well, I definitely do. I mean, the leading jockeys. I mean, they can afford it. But as I said, the average jockeys they can ill afford it. And the injured jockeys fund themselves. I mean, lots of people think as soon as a jockey breaks a collarbone, they're dishing out money for him. The injured jockeys fund looks after them, the beneficiaries, in whatever the way. They need the money. If they aren't got any insurance, and they will look after them. And straight onto the case, the Almedas, as soon as the jockey falls, the Almedas are there looking, see what help they can give them. But regarding the insurance for the day-to-day running of the house and things like this, I mean, they've got some money coming. They need money coming in.
And you must be proud of John Frankham, I call him the greatest jockey, taking over from the late John Oaksey as president of the IJF.
Couldn't be a better man. Absolutely super. I mean, John Oaksey, he was an absolute legend. I mean, I love the man to bits. And John definitely, he fills his shoes.
And your vice presidency, you're still hands-on the cause that you've had for, well, since 40, 50 years.
Well, in 1964, when Paddy Farrell got injured, I mean, I was one of the jockeys that went around with the bucket at Weatherby to collect for them. So I've been with it from day one.
And your solution as dictator, racecourses must insure all jockeys.
I think it's a must.
One thing you were specialised as a trainer, Jack, with your 2-year-olds and winning smaller races generally. Of course, you've had the Paris House and the Mind Games and that kind of thing. What would you do now to help the smaller trainers, where it's very, very hard to sort of get winners with the competition they face?
Well, when I was training, I mean, especially in our heydays, we had every single racecourse, it was compelled to stage at least one 2-year-old race on every card.
And they don't have to do that now. I didn't know that.
They do not do it.
I didn't know that.
In fact, they are encouraged not to have the 2-year-old races.
If they have 2-year-old maidens, they have nurseries. Are you certain of that?
I am telling you, it is a definite fact. It is a definite fact. The early races I'm talking about, I mean, later on in the season you can have 3 and 4 2-year-old races on the cards, but they've all got going. The early races, which gives the smaller trainer a chance to win an event, they're not there. So
you're saying you would compel every race course at every day's racing to have at least one 2-year-old race? I definitely would. I definitely would. I'm sure they couldn't do with it. I mean, lots of the big trainers have got good horses. I mean, majority of the middle distance horses, and they're aiming for the big races, the big condition races, and the group races. Whereas the average trainer, like, you know, it's a number game for him. He wants some winners on the board, you know. But you're more concerned about the early 2-year-olds. People would argue, well, should we be supporting generally the mediocre horses, the flashy ones that can win a race quickly, the very sharp 2-year-olds? Should we be encouraging breeders to produce horses like that? Well, I'm sure of it, because the majority of the early horses, I mean, they're sprinting bred. And later on in their careers, I mean, the horses that need a strip, they either go jumping or they go on long distance races, but the sprinters, like, they just wear out, you know, the moderate ones do at least, anyway. But you talk about mediocre racing and encouraging it, I mean, what do you call this on the all-weather at the minute? I mean, some of those races down there, they have 3s, 4s, 5s, 6 runners and 7 or 8 races every card. God, you need some stamina to watch that lot, don't you? But it is helping your kind of trainer that you're talking about, the trainers struggling to make a living, all weather racing is a help for them. Well, you say that, but look at the cards now. Although I mean, it's really lots of it's Mickey Mouse racing for very little money. But I mean, you still get the big trainers. You know, the big trainers. You know, like you know. I mean, I can't say names, but I mean, they still do go. John Golston, the Godolphin. Right, they do, and Mark Johnson, and all of them. I mean, they all have an abundance of runners on them. In fact, they could probably discourage people running a horse, because if you're going to run second to one of those horses, you know, I mean, when you've had 3 runs under your belt, being a maiden, like, you can go into handicaps, and
you know, you're probably handicapped on. You've probably been second to them, and it probably 6-4 on, or even 10-1 on. One with 10 in his chest, you beat it a length, and you probably go up £10.
But Jack, you are concerned about these pricey animals and the big stables coming up and mowing down and taking all these maiden races. What would you do to help the smaller trainers in the maiden events?
Right. Well, what I would do is the medium price range of horses. I mean, that is how the average nowadays. But I would say go for the stallion price, the price of the stallion. If you get a stallion, say, majority of the sprinters, they stand at 10,000 or less. And they would breed the type of horses that the small trainer wants.
So you are, as dictator, as dictator, Jack, you would have races, maiden races, for horses by stallions being serviced at £10,000 or less, confined to them.
I would, because that would encourage people to have more sprinting type animals. But if they're not going to put the early races on, I mean, they don't go for them, do they? I mean, you could. Even Mind Games and Price Also, we had them at stud. I mean, I think they stood at about 3,000, 3,500. They were group horses. They were the best sprinters around. I mean, it shows you the price of them there. If you get a medium price range, you go to Coolmore and Darley and places like that. I mean, they wouldn't have a horse in the yard for that kind of money. So
that's another reform that you bring in. You'd have every race car must have a 2-year-old race on it. And not every car, but a lot of maiden races for stallions, for horses by stallions, cost less than £10,000. Basically, Jack, what everybody in racing seems to want is increase in prize money. I'm sure that's what you echo as well. And as dictator, what would you do to bring that about? Well, regarding, it's like I said before, the medium price money gets to them. I mean, there's a race today at Kempton where the medium price was 28,000. It's got 5 horses entered in that. Well, I mean, those kind of small trainers, they don't know, just to spend 28,000 on the year then. So, prize money, Jack, what would you do? Well, prize money for a start. I mean, I honestly do believe, we say there's far too much racing. Well, I do honestly believe that every racecourse, every day, every race that they subscribe to should be a minimum of £4,000. To the winner? No. £4,000 and let the prize money come out of that. And there should be a 4th prize in every race. Now, racecourses will say they can't afford it. Now, with corporate entertainment going on and the money that they do get from the medium rights one, they can well afford it. Well, there's not much corporate going on at some of the all-weather tracks and... well, there's not much going on at anything with the all-weather tracks. I mean, you go down there, you could count the punches on 2 hands. So, I mean, it's only fodder for the bookmakers, isn't it, that kind of racing? And if they cut down on a lot, it won't be a bad idea. But you're saying, Jack, as racing dictator, any course would not be allowed to race unless every one of their events was a prize fund of £4,000 or more? Definitely, definitely. In 1991, we trained the fastest 100 winners ever. And by July the 17th, we had it. And there was a horse at Hamilton, the least prize in 1991 was £2,178 to the winner. Today, that would be an average, that wouldn't be a bad result. A fair figure for an average race. And that is disgusting. We're talking about 2014 now. This is in 1991, I ask you, where there must have been expenses gone up 5- or 6-fold. In addition to all that, we used to get help from the tote. They used to pay travelling expenses and all that nowadays. So ultimately, you're saying any racecourse who was unable to accept these terms, you'd shut them down. Fair enough. As racing dictator. Dead right. I mean, some courses they'll probably struggle a little bit, but there are lots of trainers struggle, you know. I mean, they are. And owners. And owners and trainers and everybody. I mean, I think it's awful, and it encourages... It's just bad news, isn't it? Let's get it clear, your views. Is it £4,000 direct to the winner, or the whole race is valued for... The whole race, £4,000. £4,000. Whereas now we've got some of the Mickey Mouse races run for £2,500, where the winner gets £1,600. That is disgusting.
Our customer reviews tell us a lot about why people love their Kia Rio. Whether it's great on fuel or that it's a dream to drive. In fact, over 10,000 customers have posted their honest reviews of our cars, which all come with the Kia 7-year warranty. See what they're saying at kia.co.uk.
Don't you move! You in a hurry, lads?
Yeah, it's been non-stop.
Sports model, is it?
Yeah, it's murder and petrol.
Got to rob a bank to run one of these, eh?
What's the traffic like heading north?
Shocking.
Head start?
Yeah, all right, boy.
Save money on your car insurance and feel epic. You're so money supermarket.
Deposits on a Butlins brake start from as little as £30 a person. Book now for the best choice. Call us or visit butlins.com.
Join Jackpot Joy today and you can win an holiday somewhere nice and hot. Come on, boys, more action. Enter our free prize draw today.
If you're a landlord, home insurance isn't enough. Direct Line's landlord insurance means if your rental property's oven, washing machine or boiler breaks down, we'll pay to have it repaired or replaced as standard. To help get your property back in order and keep your rent coming in. And whether you have one property or lots of them, we guarantee to beat the price of any other insurer. So for the best landlord insurance provider, take the Direct Line.
If you fall ill abroad, we'll help find a doctor who speaks your language. Just part of the Kiss and Make Better service we deliver daily. American Express.
Now, Jack, you've been very keen, and when you were a trainer especially, and as a rider, you call yourself a journeyman jockey, whatever it was, of encouraging the younger riders, men and women. What would you do as far as giving more opportunities to apprentices, conditional jockeys?
Well, I think when you go to the all-weather the courses, and I mean, you see 7 and 8 races on the cards every day, I think they could afford to put one on for an apprentice race. And if the days that they didn't have an apprentice race, probably amateur riders. Do something like that.
So every race course, let's get this clear, every race course, you're saying, maybe barring one or two of the very big meetings, although Cheltenham does have a conditional race, doesn't it, the Martin Pipe race?
Yep.
Is it virtually every course, maybe the odd exceptions?
I wouldn't say every course. I mean, I think the festivals, they could be left be.
Right, but otherwise...
I think the ordinary race courses, they could do, well, good enough, you know, to put an apprentice race or an amateur riders race or something.
But even,
or a bumpers race.
But there are critics who say Champions Day, which has now moved to Ascot from Newmarket, and there's an apprentice race on that day to finish the car. People are criticising that.
Maybe so, but having said all that, I mean, the type of apprentices that are riding that race, there wouldn't be a fella just starting off, you know, claiming his £7. They will have had a fair bit of experience, wouldn't they? But I mean, to make the jockeys, you've got to give them some sort of an incentive, you know. I mean, there are some trainers in the yard, they probably wouldn't know the champion jockey if he was an apprentice in the yard, you know. They pick up people's brains, but if there are plenty of opportunities for them to find these guys out, you know, and give them a chance, so I think it would help.
That certainly seems a fair compromise, because the bookmakers would say, well, there's less money, better with the apprentice races. Would you have, for instance, more ladies-only races?
I don't go for that. I don't go for that at all. Because if you get an amateur race or a ladies' race or an apprentice race, I mean, invariably you get far more runners. I mean, you go to Suddle, Lingfield and Kempton and some of the gaff tracks, they get 3s and 4s and races. I mean, some 1 to 4 on, aren't they? I mean, what kind of punters do they get? I mean, nobody's going to beckon on them races, are they?
And your apprentice race a day is what you're saying on the flat, and conditional race a day, mainly and nearly every day over jumps. Would the apprentice race on the flat especially, do you encourage these hands and heels only? In other words, not using the whip as far as hitting horses, having a whip for steering purposes, but that's all.
Well, let's get right for starters. You talk about an apprentice race and getting runners and things like that. I think if you had a 7 furlong or a 6 or a 7 furlong apprentice race, selling race even, at Catterick, for £4,000, I tell you, you probably get 60 eliminated from it. So, I mean, you do get the runners there.
But that brings in your £4,000, so it's...
Yes, you would get them, wouldn't you? So they can afford to put that on, can't they?
And there's no evidence that the apprentice races aren't as popular with the trainers and owners and trainers as other races.
I'm sure they are, and it gives them a chance as well. And regarding the options for the apprentices and whatnot, I mean, they'll get far greater chances to riding them, and for the girls as well.
So you're content that if they brought in an amateur race and an apprentice race on every card, virtually, the younger, up-and-coming potential riders would have more opportunities than they do now?
I'm sure they would. I'm sure they would.
And one thing that does really bug you, Jack, we do know this, is the penalties that jockeys receive for various infractions of the rules. Explain what you mean by that.
Well, I think everyday person, they make mistakes daily. I mean, I can often say in my day, there would hardly be days go by that I don't go probably down somewhere and think, crikey, what did I come here for? I did something like, I mean, I haven't done it on purpose. And I think jockeys, if they've made a mistake, not by intention, because bear in mind that these chaps work on split-second decisions.
Human error.
Human error, yes. They have not done it on purpose. And I think, you know, to give them 21 days and a suspension, when, bear in mind that lots of these jockeys, they've got wife and little kids, they can ill afford it. I mean, I don't say they're living to hand to mouth, but they're not. They don't earn a fortune. They haven't got extravagant livings, you know. So I mean, I'm sure that they should have a little bit more of a heartbeat. The stewards, you know, when they dish these penalties out, and just think, or they probably could have some sort of a system where they have a 20 rating, and they get penalised, say 7 points for doing so and 7 for another, and when they hit the 21 mark, then probably give them a month's suspension or something like it. But to just bang for a mistake that they've inadvertently done, I don't think it's cricket.
Now, there's a huge differential here, Jack, between deliberately stopping a horse, preventing it running on its merits.
Exactly.
You would penalise them because the racing's integrity is the most important thing we've got.
Dead right.
So that's that, but for the human error, mistaking the winning post, riding a circuit too early, missing out a fence, taking the wrong course, human split-second errors.
It's human error, yes.
So you wouldn't penalise that. I agree with that. I think it's unjust.
I don't think I'd penalise it as hard as they do, and have some sort of a system where they can, you know, just go into it and explain it a little bit better.
What about failing to weigh in, Jack?
Well, I mean, there's another thing. I mean, you can blame yourself for all these kind of things, because I mean, when the jockeys are, even before they've pulled up, I mean, they're nearly jogging there with a mic in their mouths, aren't they? Saying, how did that go and whatnot, and what sort of a feeling did that do?
It's terrific.
And they're talking to them all the time. I mean, they're taking their mind off the ball.
Yeah, but shouldn't the authorities, Jack, make sure? I'd like every jockey to weigh in. I think they should all weigh in. I know there's 28, 30 runners.
You're asking it. I'd say ban all that until they're weighed in, and then let them come out and have a chat.
Shouldn't we have a system that every jockey weighs in? There could be people doing things at the back of the horse and carrying more weight, whatever it is.
There's no sense in every jockey weighing, because you get big fields and whatnot, and it's hard enough. You say now you riding a 3 mile hurdle, and then the next race, say a 2 mile chase and then another 3 mile chase or something like it. You're under pressure. You see that weighing room and how busy you are. Is there it's a one that don't weigh in a lot more times.
Yeah, but is it to do with should the authorities and the luck of the scales make sure he gets the front 4, for instance?
Yes, but they can't even get to the jockeys for all these press fellas, you know,
but they're not in the weighing room. They aren't in the weighing room.
No, but there's only half an hour between each race, and 7 minutes before the race is due for the next race. I mean, there's people there hollering out, jockeys, come on, jockeys, you're late, and all that. They're giving them all that. You're Should be all the time there. Now, I think if the press want to talk to them, they should do it after they've weighed in.
Well, I think that normally happens. They are grabbed. I agree. Yes, yeah, either walking back or.
There's too much of it. Plus the fact, another thing as well, the jockeys. I do honestly believe saying that the owners pay the money and the trainers employ them. I do think they should be the first to know. You know. They say sometimes, these jockeys, when they've had a decent feel, when you ask the winning jockey what the ground was like, it could be knee-deep in muck. Oh, it wasn't bad ground at all, because he got through it, because he won the race, didn't he?
Yeah, but that's explained by the
But that's what they do. But what I'm trying to say is they say the wrong thing. They don't have time to digest it. I mean, I remember sometimes when I used to ride a horse, and if it ran bad, I used to take it a little bit further around the course and think, right, what can I tell them about this? You know, I'm not making excuses, but trying to find an explanation. But nowadays, I mean, they don't even have that kind of a chance before the mic's rammed down their necks and saying, you know, how did that go, and explain it to them.
So you would ban the press from talking to any jockey until after the weigh-in?
Give them a bit of freedom, you know, let them get the breath.
It's not the same, Jack, when they come back
let
and they've
them
got their suits and ties on and they're all prepared.
Maybe
the raw action when you've won. We've had some wonderful interviews on television.
All right then.
Of a jockey who's won and
okay.
up.
We'll make a compromise. Bring the scales into the winning enclosure.
Yeah, I wouldn't say no to that.
Why would we do that?
I wouldn't say no to that.
And let them weigh in there.
And the public can see it.
And then they can have a chat with them.
And the public can see it.
Okay, then they can have a chat with them.
Yeah.
And also, there should be an official making it really clear. Make sure, stand in the gateway of the weighing room and don't let them pass the first four until they have got on that scales.
Well, that's a fair point. That is a fair point.
Until they've got on that scale. So you can't go in until you get on that scales and weigh in.
It is a rare event now that they don't weigh in, but nevertheless.
Yeah, that's right.
And in America, for instance, the scales are right way where you dismount from the horse. You've got to get on the scales.
Dead right.
So they, I don't think, virtually never have a failure to weigh in.
It's self-explanatory.
Yes, yeah. So, Jack, looking at overall your career as a rider, as a trainer, as a fundraiser, and now Jack Berry House coming the house that Jack built, and your red shirt, which we see you've still got on. Do you ever go out ever without a red shirt, Jack?
I haven't got any other shirts on my red.
Dear, oh dear. It used to be the Communist Party. They used to wear red shirts only. I hope you're not like that.
I'm not even a Lebanon.
Anyway, looking forward to Jack Berry House, which will be your finest achievement. Is there room, do you think we should have another Jack Berry House somewhere else? Not Jack Berry House, but whatever they like to call it. Or do you think now there is enough with Oaksey House, magnificent facility? I'm sure the house that Jack built will be similar. Is there any more needed, do you think, on that front for injured and retired jockeys?
No, I think another one that will suffice. If we just get the house that Jack built, which Tim Adams, a friend of mine, named it the house that Jack built, and we get that up and running, I'd like to see it before I'm carted off in that box.
The house that Jack built. We all look forward to the opening of that. Jack Berry, you were king for a day, and what a